Good day, everyone. For today, we will be discussing our different RPH artifacts and stories. For today, there are only 3 representatives, as we were instructed that we would only be presenting at least 3 stories and 3 artifacts. So, the 3 representatives for this group is Ms. Kamaya, Ms. Vasquez, and yours truly, Mr. Solibaga. So, without further ado, let's start with the presentation. Thank you.
Good day, I am Kenneth Solibaga, and today I will be discussing my primary, secondary, and tertiary sources and the history and background of my chosen artifacts and stories. So first, let's start with my artifact, which is the Recuerdos de Patay. It is basically an image or a physical picture of people taking pictures with the dead. And these dead people are usually their loved ones or their relatives. And the history behind this, or the rationale, is to preserve the family's bloodline and to preserve the memory and cherish what they had with the people who have passed away and left the earth. So for my primary sources, we have this link right here and this picture. This link further defines the rationale between the importance of the Recuerdos de Patay and the reason why Filipinos did this back in the day. Another primary source that I have is the oral account from my mother, wherein she said that her great relatives used to have pictures of their loved ones, just like the picture shown, to show love and preservation to the family's bloodline and the memory of that person. So, yes. So for my secondary sources, we have the Betchen's book, which is Forget Me Not, the photography and remembrance. So this does not merely present photographs as raw artifacts. Rather, it offers interpretation, analysis, and contextualization of photography as a medium of remembrance. This examines how people have, across history and cultures, used photographs to memorialize the deceased, to resist forgetting, or to ritualize grief and memory. Because Recuerdos de Patay represents a particular historical culture instance of post-mortem or memorial photography, Forget Me Not situates such practices within broader theories about memory, mortality, and the material culture of photography, making it a good secondary source with respect to Recuerdos de Patay. In other words, Betchen's work does not record individual postmortem photos, but rather provides interpretive lenses and theoretical frameworks for understanding their meaning, social function, emotional weight, and place in photographic history. So, that's for my secondary source for Recuerdos de Patay. So for my tertiary sources, we have the Filipino article, which collects and represents a set of post-mortem photographs and historical images drawn from older sources, such as the magazine El Renacimiento Filipino and prior historians like Ambeth Ocampo. Rather than offering new archival material or in-depth analysis of each photograph, it aggregates previously published images and information, providing a general overview of creepy historical photos in Philippine history. And this includes Recuerdos de Patay because some, including myself, might also deem it as kind of sketchy or eerie in some parts, but I know that it is a well-conserved or well-preserved and well-thought-out tradition here in the Philippines back in the day. I understand that, but effectively functioning as a compiled summary or digest. That makes it analogs to what librarians and information scientists define as a tertiary source, a resource that consolidates primary and secondary materials for easy reference but does not itself produce original interpretation, primary data, or scholarly analysis. So that's for my tertiary source for Recuerdos de Patay. Now moving on to my story, which is the Maria Cacao and her golden ship. For my primary source, I use this link right here and the oral account from people that are close to me, and of course my parents or the community that is my primary community. So for this one is we have the Ateneo archival article on Maria Cacao and the Golden Ship. This is a primary source because it records the folklore directly from historical accounts, documenting the story as it was told in local communities. Additionally, from my oral accounts or the accounts from my community, this counts as a primary source because it represents the first-hand testimony and contemporary observation of the legend's influence in my local culture. Example, hearing the ship's horn during calamities, which I believe was also told by my parents. My parents told me this as well when the recent typhoon and earthquake happened, and both examples capture original culture expressions and lived experiences without interpretation or analysis, which is the defining characteristic of a primary source. For my secondary source is we have this source right here. This source is published in a scholarly peer-reviewed journal, which is the Philippine Studies Historical and Ethnographic Viewpoints. This is not as an original myth-telling, but it serves as to analyze, interpret, and discuss existing folklore traditions rather than to record a newly collected myth in its raw or oral form. As such, it does not provide new first-hand tales, but instead situates these myths in a broader scholarly, ethnographic, or historical framework, making it a good secondary source that supports structure and persistence of lower Philippine mythology. So for the tertiary sources, we have this Encyclopedia of Philippine Mythology, and it's about Maria Cacao and her golden ship. This encyclopedia basically compiles information from multiple primary and secondary sources, which summarizes the different versions of Maria Cacao and her story and its cultural significance. It does not present new research or first-hand accounts, nor does it offer in-depth scholarly analysis. However, it serves as a reference tool that aggregates existing knowledges in an accessible format, which is basically the hallmark of a tertiary source. So that's all for my primary, secondary, and tertiary source for my artifacts and stories.
So hello everyone, for my artifact I chose a bangka, which is a traditional wooden outrigger boat that has been passed down through generations, helping families sustain their livelihood through fishing. So I live near the seashore of Cordova, where my parents would occasionally buy fish from small stalls along the shore. So growing up, they would tell me how different things were when they were younger, how fishers used to arrive before sunrise with their wooden bangkas full of fresh catch, how the shoreline felt more alive with families helping one another sort, clean, and sell fish. My parents would often sing, sa una daghan pa kaayog isda, dali ra kapalit og presko, because the waters were cleaner and the fishing grounds were just a few paddles away. So they also shared how gender roles were more defined back then. The men usually went out to the sea while the women took charge of cleaning the fish, selling the catch at the market, and handling the household money. So that is for my primary source. So for my secondary source, I chose a study that examined the roles of women in the small-scale fisheries of Davao Oriental and reveals that they participate actively in various stages of the fishing cycle, including pre-fishing preparations, post-harvest processing, marketing, and the cleaning. It shows that women contribute significantly to their household's income and support community livelihood, even though their work is often overlooked in official records. For my tertiary source, I chose an article that explains that although fishing is often viewed as a male-dominated occupation, women in the Philippines have long played essential roles in pre-harvest tasks such as gear preparation, baiting, and managing household logistics for fishing trips. They are also heavily involved in post-harvest activities like sorting, drying, processing, and selling the fish, contributions that are vital to sustaining coastal households. So it emphasizes that despite their significant labor, the work of women in fisheries remains undervalued and underrepresented in national statistics and policy discussions. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Isa Marie Vasquez, and today I sources. So my artifact is an old wooden baul that has been passed down through 3 generations of women in my family. So this baul was used to store important documents like letters, blankets, and family heirlooms. But beyond being just a storage box, it carries a much deeper meaning. So my grandmother once told me na kanina baul kay gikan pa sa iyang mama. And like sometimes ang mga babae jud ang tigbantay ato. So this reminds me that in our family, it was always the women who took care of the baul. They were the ones who protected it, organized it, and made sure everything inside was safe. So the baul becomes more than an object. It becomes a symbol of how women serves as memory keepers, protectors of family history, and caretakers of the home. My primary source is the oral account from my grandmother. Her personal story, told directly from her experience, gives first-hand insight into how the baul was used and why it mattered. This direct testimony shows the tradition of women being entrusted with keeping the family's memories and belongings. The primary source helps me understand the emotional and cultural value of the artifact from someone who really lived it. So my secondary source is William Henry Scott's book, The Barangay's 16th Century Philippine Culture and Society. So in his research, Scott explains that even during pre-colonial and early colonial periods, Filipino women played major roles in managing the household, protecting the property, and like preserving family records. So his historical explanation supports that the idea that my family's tradition is part of a much older cultural pattern. So like the baul reflects a long history where women serve as guardians of family memory and cultural continuity. Scott's account helps me connect with my grandmother's story to a larger historical context. So for my tertiary source, I use an encyclopedia entry from encyclopedia.com about household roles in Filipino families and Filipino migrant workers. So this source summarizes existing research showing that even today, Filipino women continue to carry emotional, cultural, and organizational responsibilities, and sometimes even from abroad. So it highlights how women remain the center of family connection, keeps traditions and memories alive despite physical distance. This mirrors the function of our baul. It keeps the past intact so it can be passed on, just like how women continue to hold families together. In summary, the primary source, secondary source, tertiary source, and the artifact all come together to show one theme. Filipino women have always been the keepers of family memory. The baul is like not just a wooden chest, it is a representative of women's role in preserving history, culture, and identity across generations. Thank you.